The only conversation we seem to hear much about this past week is a conversation about Trayvon Martin. We too, on Bridges, think that this is an important conversation to have along with the rest of the country, and that's what we're talking about this morning. We have with us, as I introduced you in the first segment, Sean Reed, who's a local consultant, Sean Mahone, who is the Executive Director of Young Men and Women for Change, and Albert Earl from Village 50. Okay, we were talking this morning all over the map, sort of in the first segment, about whether this was a race issue, if it's a profiling issue, if it's a matter of accountability. At the end of the day, what should this community be doing? Somebody, anybody.
Well, like I said previously, I think that we need to sit down amongst ourselves as African Americans and have a conversation and begin.
How does that get started, though?
I think that, you know what, I would hope that the church would be willing to lead it. But we can't wait on the church.
I'm saying, in addition to which, and to all my pastor friends out there, I so apologize, but have we seen the same kind of leadership and focus from our religious community in its entirety that we are accustomed to seeing in civil rights movements?
No.
That's right.
I'll say a categorical no.
Absolutely
particularly
not.
in this community and other communities. The church has always been a stalwart of what is right and things we should do, but that has fallen by the wayside.
Listen, every single civil rights movement of any great import has started in the church. Why? And we are not seeing that focus in this community right now. That's another conversation for another show,
Sure.
and I probably will not be smiled at in church on Sunday, but you know, it's a conversation this community has to have, and I agree with you. We can't wait. We can't wait for that.
No, we can't wait. And what we have to do is, it takes individuals to be able to think outside the box, to make some noise, to be the voice for those who are being quiet, to be the one that's going to go out there and make some thunderstorms or to rattle what we want to say, the earth. And the example is next Saturday. We have our second annual Walk for Youth Day. I am walking from Toledo, Ohio to Detroit, Michigan, to raise some noise about the concerns about our youth in our community. And you had asked earlier about what did this case really do with a not guilty verdict. What it did for me was it peeled away an old scab, an old wound. Being an African American male, growing up in the inner city, but having the opportunity to be in different places, it's a fear, because I was racially profiled growing up. I was that one that was denied promotions and opportunities because of the color of my skin. So we collaboratively have to have like minds to be able to move forward and make that noise to be able to make a difference in our community. And no, we cannot wait on our churches. We have to stand. Sometimes if we have to stand alone, standing alone means empty barrel make loud noises.
Sure, sure. Is there a possibility for a Trayvon Martin case to happen here in Toledo?
Oh, definitely. I believe this in Trayvon Martin cases already happened. I think it was probably swept under the rug. But even more than that, when you go back a few years and look at the incidents with Coco the barber, I mean, situations like that, the community came together. We were hurt, and then slowly but surely, like you said, the conversations died. The momentum just stopped.
Away.
And that should never stop, because, and just to speak on her personally, she had the type of energy that never, her energy alone was so infectious. We should have been filled with her energy to this day until we found the person that did that.
That's right. And for those of you who don't know, Coco was a much beloved person in our community. She's a barber. She was shot. No one was ever found or charged with her murder. And there was quite an uproar in the community for a while.
I want to go back to something Mick said about the individual accountability. And going back to that incident, referencing Coco.
This is Mick, you guys, and we want to tell you this is Mick. Go ahead.
You know, someone's child did that. And there's a mother somewhere that knows that was her child that did that. But we have this code of silence when it pertains to people in our immediate family that we just don't want to address. And I think that even with this Martin situation and the way that young people are viewed, there's some personal accountability that starts at home. You know, the old saying about we don't put our dirty laundry out there. Well, we got some dirty laundry that we need to talk about.
That's true, but in this particular case, this young man was walking down the street. And you know, his and I agree with you, Sean. I absolutely do. We do need to do a better job of making sure that we are being parents at home,
Yes.
responsible parents at home. This young man, though, is walking down the street. His values as a person were not being challenged. He was walking down the street. He wasn't robbing a store. He wasn't beating anybody up. He's walking down the street. I don't know what happened there. I wasn't there. But what I do know at the end of the day is that this should be a catalyst to get us moving again if there is nothing else out there that's willing to do that in terms of, you know, dissecting where we are going as a community, and examining that.
I think what's really unfair is that in the beginning, when this case first started, they were not charging Zimmerman. They were kind of like letting this get away. They were kind
Yeah.
of saying, you know, we're just going to let this be another one bites the dust. But it took for us as a community, as a nation, to start signing petitions for this whole trial to even
You know, that's a
begin.
really great point. Yeah, I'm glad you raised that. So yeah, that's what happens when people come together.
When people come together, so when that came together, of course, Zimmerman had his supporters of those who had deep pockets that was already preparing for this not guilty verdict. And, you know, when we're up against each other and we're not holding each other accountable, then incidents are going to happen like this, and it's going to continue to happen like this.
Yeah, I think you're. Do you think President Obama has a role in this? You know, that's been tossed around. He hasn't really said much. There's been a lot of
I'd like to
discussion.
just start even at the local level. You know, before we began today, we had a brief conversation about some of the local elected officials. What are those people doing?
Hey,
what are they saying? They're not
like
saying
that.
anything.
What should they
But-
be saying,
Well,
Sean?
I'll tell
I
you
like
one
that.
thing. It's funny that during an election year, those same folks will come to your church, and then you won't see them again to the following election year. Then, no, that's problematic. That's transcends.
You know what? I want you to say that again. I want you to say that again out loud. You are so right. And let me say it for you. During election year,
Yes.
those candidates come into communities and profess all kinds of caring and understanding, and then they get elected and they go away. Is that a fair?
That is fair, and even so, even some of the elected, you know, we'll focus. I want to focus on some of the African American leadership. You know, who are they grooming to succeed them? No one. Those people are in it for their own personal interest, it appears, because they should be working with young people and working to ensure that there's a legacy passed and they're grooming people to succeed them, especially if they represent traditionally black districts.
Okay. Well, specifically around this Trayvon Martin incident, or violence, black on black violence, violence against black folk, the issue of violence in general in neighborhoods that are predominantly black or brown. Should local officials, as Sean mentioned, should they be saying something?
I think they should. And going back to your original question, I think that President Obama should be saying something.
What should he say?
I think that he should just address the issue nationally and let the nation know how he feel about it, and put some type of things in place to move this situation with the government along in terms of seeing if Trayvon Wright's civil rights was violated. And I think that he should be outspoken on that. He's been outspoken on every other issue with every other group. Why is he not saying anything about situations that's going on within his own group? To me, and I get that he's the president of the United States, but when you can speak up about every issue with every other group, then guess what? It's time that you speak out on some issues concerning African Americans. That is your responsibility, because if it wasn't for African Americans that came before you, you would not be in that seat. And that's why I feel about it.
What do you think?
I'm in agreement with both of them. I concur because of the simple fact, once again, we talk about accountability, we talk about responsibility, and I think it's a responsibility of him being the president of the United States to be able to address, because I think it's not fair for over 400 kids to lose their lives in Chicago, and kids that are losing their life in Detroit, and you're not speaking up on those very same issues. What are you saying to us as a community, as African Americans? What are you really saying? It was more important for you to receive our vote, for you to get into office.
Is that fair? Is that really fair? Because I think he is speaking up about violence. I think he is not specifically addressing the Trayvon Martin case right now. And I think it's far more complicated than now. Eric Holder is investigating, the Attorney General is investigating whether a civil suit should be filed. But is that fair?
I think it's fair, and I'll say this, and not just because he's an African American, but any elected official throughout the entire United States, let's just look at this. We will go thousands and thousands of miles to deal with terrorism in other countries. But we are silent and we make excuses for the terrorism that's going on right on the streets of America.
I love that.
To me,
That's great.
that doesn't make sense.
great.
Something is wrong with that picture. It's kind of like when you go back to the civil rights movement with Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali said, "You want me to go thousands of miles away to fight against this enemy, but I'm being mistreated here." So if we could see that then, why can't we see that now? There's something wrong in America, and I think our elected officials have to step up and deal with this issue and stop passing the buck, saying we got this responsibility and that responsibility. If we spending billions and billions of dollars to go to war against other countries, surely we can do something about what's going on right here in the streets of America.
In the last minute that we have left, and thank you for that, in the last minute that we have left, I want each of you to tell me quickly what you would tell your sons. I know that you have sons. I think that you have a daughter.
I have two older sons.
Older sons, that's right, I always forget that. What would you tell your boys? What would you tell your sons quickly?
Well, I've told both of my sons throughout their life, the expectations that I expect of them and what they should develop for themselves as far as how they present themselves and how they navigate through life. And it's just so important to always remember that you have to exceed and excel beyond expectations. So if I tell you that I expect you to have a bachelor degree,
That's
then
what you expect.
I expect you to assist or
right.
to progress to a master's
A
degree.
master's degree. Okay, I'm sorry,
as an
that's
example.
got to be the last word. But we would certainly tell our kids that they need to be safe. They need to always look out for themselves, and this is not an easy world to live in. I think you all would agree with that. We have to go away, but we will be back in just a minute, promise.